Welcome back everyone to the LEC prediction series. Today we're going to be covering week 2 as well as our results from week 1. So we're just going to jump straight into our results from last week. We'll start with day number 1. A solid and respectable 3 out of 5. We dropped the Vitality Mat game and the Rogue Fnatic matchup. Day 2, not so good. 2 out of 5. We picked up in terms of results the SK Mat game and the Vitality Misfits matchup. And lastly, day number 3, we got perfect 5 out of 5. All the correct predictions in that day. Now that we've got through the sort of nitty-gritty essentials, let's get into our predictions for this week. Heading in first to SK versus Astralis. And we kick it off with two teams that finished just outside of playoffs during the spring split. In fact, SK lost out on the last day. That's how close they were to making playoffs. As for Astralis, they weren't so close to the actual playoffs. They only got like 3 wins during the regular split. This split, they're already 1 win behind their regular season record. And that's partly down to the fact that they've gotten 2 solid experienced players in Xerxes and Vizitrachi on their roster. But it's not just the experience they're bringing, they're actually packing a lot of heat. And you have to look at Kobe. This guy has been overperforming. Junghoon, I feel he's kind of struggled in the few games that I've seen him play. But Kobe has stepped up into a leader for this Astralis roster. And that's not something you'd realistically expect from him. That being said, all eyes should be on that bot lane, with me just telling you about how I feel Kobe has stepped up. You realistically have to think that Treats and Jezu have kind of, how I would say, stepped back. They're not as strong as what they originally were as a duo, and it's partially down to how the team plays, but it's also partially down to how this roster has come to be. Treats stepped out of the support role where he was dominant to go play jungle for a split because SK couldn't find a jungler. Somehow. Makes no sense to me. And then we come back into this summer split. He isn't performing as hot as what he was, but he's still hot. Like, don't get me wrong, Treats is a solid 10, but it's not, the team ethic and effort is not at the top of what this SK roster could perform. And arguably, they only won one of their games last week due to the fact that Gilius can smite. That's it. That's all they won the game off, is Gilius smites. Regardless, I'm tired, so let's move into our next prediction after I've gone with an Astralis win to open it up. Game 2, Vitality versus XL. A playoff round 1 rematch from spring, coming back with arguably a lot more excitement. Vitality did well week 1, honestly. Everyone thought after their day 1 loss that there would be a repeat result for them going 0-3 opening weekend. That did not happen. However, they face arguably tougher opponents here in week 2, and XL is one of the tougher opponents. This team has been on the uptrend recently, having only dropped 1 matchup last week to G2, who are arguably the best team in the league at the moment. There's no doubt about that. So, as things go, I've gone with an XL win here, but I could see Vitality winning. They have been performing quite well. It seems we get back-to-back playoff rematches as we see Rogue taking on Misfits. These two teams faced off in the regular season last year, and Rogue decimated, if that wasn't clearly obvious with their absolute decimation of the regular split. When it came to playoffs, it was kind of the same story, but coming into summer where both teams have kind of underperformed in terms of the results they got. Granted, Rogue had a very difficult schedule in comparison to Misfits. I still think this matchup will be close. Rogue miraculously picked up a win against the Mad Lions on the last day, thanks to a flip at the Drake. Then, they won that game. They were still losing 3 out of 3 games until the very last second. And Misfits just haven't got going. You kind of have to realize that teams have sussed out Misfits. And one team everyone knows that can play by the book and beat you very easily is Rogue. They're going to come into this matchup, they're going to look to win it, because their other matchup this weekend is against Astralis, whom is on a completely different warpath to either of these teams at the moment. So Rogue, if they want to keep the hope of the fans for this split, they're gonna have to step it up and beat Misfits. Game number 4 sees G2 and BDS. Grabs versus G2. And I learned so much during the first weekend of BDS as a team, and boy, I'm just gonna say it right now, unfortunately they kinda do suck. I'm personally not too hot on this roster, and you could kind of tell by how Grabs reacted end of spring. He felt this team underperformed, there was a lot of issues. But that's what you get when you bring in rookies to the league. They're not that hot polished team. And personally, I've not seen anything in this roster yet that shows why they should be in the LEC. Like, don't get me wrong, you've got some fantastic ERL players here, but they've not done enough. I'm honestly thinking, if you look at this roster, I don't think they performed that bad. Don't get me wrong, in the opening game of the split, they just sucked. In the rest, losing out to Astralis and then losing to Vitality. The Vitality game wasn't close. The other two had some success in the early game, but it just fizzled out late. And if you cannot finish a game, you cannot win. And that's a big gripe. On the other side of things, you got G2. We haven't even spoke about them yet in this. And they're just on form. They took the success that they got from the spring split lower bracket. We'll miss out MSI because yikes. And they're just continuing the hot streak. The thing that they've got going in their advantage is they are unknown. They were playing for a long time on 12.10, 12.9, the MSI patch. So they didn't realistically get any time to prep for the regular season. So what do? If you've watched the teamfight breakdown I've just did that's on the channel, you'll know they ran it back with the Yasuo.Ayana comp. They just brought back what worked during MSI, and it dismantled Rogue. That's all I need to say. They're using what they learned to MSI. That's the big thing. If a team can't learn from an international tournament against the best of the best, then chances are they're gonna flounder. However, G2 have learnt, they have proved why they're such a good squad, and they're going to do it again this weekend by beating out BDS. Our matchup of the week sees Fnatic taking on the Mad Lions. We're just getting into a juicy matchup where both teams are sitting 2-1. Obviously, this is going to be quite a close matchup. However, I have honestly been more impressed with the Mad Lions during this split than I was last split. Nisqy has just shot a rocket right up this roster, and he is facing off in this matchup against his former team, the team that benched him for Humanoid. That's a big thing to say considering Nisqy had just returned from NA, and then he's just benched after one split. That's not good, hombre, and as such, I think he's got a lot to prove here, and he will be wanting to take the head of Fnatic straight clean off. It's going to be a battle of the mid laners, Humanoid versus Nisqy, and in my opinion, Humanoid hasn't reached his peak potential yet here in summer. So Nisqy is my favorite. My person I think will win this matchup for Mad. And yeah, you can tell I've gone with a Mad Lions win now that I've said that. It's going to be close, don't get me wrong. Day one, all the matches except the last one look close. And yeah, going to be even more brutally honest. I don't think you could get a closer weekend of matches other than putting the teams who are directly below one another facing off, so 10th versus 9th, 8th versus 7th, etc, all the way up to the top. That's the only way you're going to get a closer set of games. However, this is going to be a good day and very explosive. Is something you want to happen. Another thing we all want to happen is 5 more games as we kick off day 2 with SK versus Misfits. Obviously, SK and Misfits I think are going to be round about 7th or 8th this split. Misfits just haven't got off to the rocket start you need. The thing that they did so perfectly during spring, and teams have honestly learnt to counter them. It's kill Vito, punish him, don't let him roam, and then Misfits aren't a team. They're kind of irrelevant, if you pardon the pun. As for SK, their style's just not strong enough. They get punished hard in the bot lane, and then teams just are able to steamroll over them. Fnatic did it, and personally, it was a pretty easy win for them, and as such, you just feel if Misfits can shut down bot and SK can shut down mid, this matchup could be a stalemate. Regardless, I think SK will win, but I'm not too enthralled by this matchup and could honestly see this be a drawn out 35-minute first blood game. XL have a very tough weekend, and they're facing off against a team that had the same sort of success they had in week 1 as XL take on the Mad Lions. Personally, I'm going to be using my favorite phrase here. It could go either way. It's a toss-up. Honestly, Mad have just been so phenomenal, and you look across the roles, both teams' players are like for like similar. You could probably switch one player from each team in the same role and they'd still be the same team. They're interchangeable. Granted, I would think that, yeah, I'm gonna stick to my guns. That's fair assessment. These two rosters look phenomenal. Who do I think is going to win is what you're more concerned about. I've gone with a Mad win purely because Nisqy dominance. It's just, I can't go against it. It's just him being strong makes Mad a strong team fighting team. the thing that they aim for. That's it. That's why I think XL will flounder. Is matter a better team fighting squad? This game's all about team fighting. Yeah, simple. Rogue versus Astralis is the third matchup. Coming into this one, you could probably expect after week 1's action me to be putting my guns flying around in the air and jumping on the Astralis bandwagon. But I'm not. I've gone with a Rogue win. Week 1 for Rogue was rough. Week 2 could be even rougher. They've got considerably tougher matchups than week 1 if you look at current form. Both week 2 games count hugely for these two teams. Astralis could easily tie their record of the amount of wins they got in spring. Rogue could easily tie the amount of losses they got in spring after 1 week. And that's pretty big because they didn't suffer too many losses. So, whom do I think is going to win this one? It's pretty easy, isn't it? I have gone with a Rogue win. I'm just thinking Rogue will be looking to bounce back after a terribly tough week 1. You have to realize stage nerves are huge. And Larson played in stage for about a year. 2 splits, if that. A lot of these players have not played on stage. And that's something you have to consider. And personally, there are some players who have played on stage, namely Odo and most of Astralis. So there is stage jitters across both teams, don't get me wrong, but the big thing to note is Rogue will be more prepared, they'll be ready, they've got less to worry about in terms of difficulty. They're going to go at this matchup and dismantle Astralis and showcase the spring dominance. The second to last matchup of the weekend sees Fnatic taking on BDS. Oh god. I just want to get this one out of the way real quick and just say Fnatic win. I feel BDS will be the Astralis of this split. And that's sad to say. I kind of hinted during the first matchup that G2 had that they were going to have a very good weekend. Because if you can't tell, in another rematch of Perks versus Caps, I've gone with a G2 win. I hyped up G2 using what they learned at MSI very, very well during this opening weekend. But I think they're going to come into week 2 more prepared, a lot more spice, and honestly, they're probably going to take down Vitality with some ease. Perks, for some reason, I just think will flop. The 0-3 sweep that G2 delivered to them during playoffs might have put a damper on his former team's sort of hopes of rejoining them. Because Vitality, I'm not too hot on them, don't get me wrong. They are a strong squad. You look at the names on that team, they've got the star power. But I've just not been hot on them. And honestly, I think that this is going to be pretty easy for G2. And ease is something I'm good at. And I'm just going to ease on into the outro. Thank you very much for joining me. If you've enjoyed these predictions and you want to give me some information about why you think I'm wrong on certain predictions, do that in the comments down below. Subscribe if you're new around here if you want to. And special thanks to Keatson as always for the artwork. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.